What happens when you put two of the most stubborn, opinionated, funny, and unforgettable characters in television history into the same room? Yo, listen. If you are an All in the Family fan, you already know the answer. Comedy gold. Not just good comedy. Not just sitcom comedy. Television history comedy. Because whenever Archie Bunker and George shared a scene, something magical happened. The insults flew. The arguments started. The egos collided. The audience laughed. And somehow, underneath all the conflict, viewers witnessed one of the most fascinating relationships ever created in a sitcom. Trust me, the Archie and George dynamic was so strong that it helped launch an entire television classic. That is how powerful these interactions were. Welcome back, everybody. Today we are talking about why Archie and George interactions were pure gold. And honestly, this might be one of the easiest arguments to make in television history. Because every time these two characters faced off, the screen practically came alive. Let us start with the obvious. Archie Bunker and George were remarkably similar. Nah, for real. And that similarity is exactly why they drove each other crazy. Think about it. Both men were stubborn. Both men were proud. Both men believed they were smarter than everyone around them. Both men had strong opinions. Both men hated being told they were wrong. Both men loved winning arguments. And both men possessed enormous personalities. One of my biggest hot takes is that Archie and George understood each other better than either one would ever admit. Let that sink in. Because if you look beyond the arguments, you begin to notice something interesting. These two men recognize parts of themselves in each other. And they do not always like what they see. That creates incredible comedy. Now let us talk about Sherman. Because none of this discussion works without acknowledging how brilliant his performance was. Seriously, Sherman did not simply play George. He became George. The walk, the expressions, the voice, the timing, everything about the performance was unforgettable. Another hot take. George is one of the greatest sitcom characters ever created. Not one of the greatest black sitcom characters. Not one of the greatest supporting characters. One of the greatest sitcom characters. Period. Think about that. Very few television personalities remain instantly recognizable decades after their debut. George absolutely does. And Sherman deserves enormous credit for that achievement. Now let us talk about why the Archie and George scenes worked so well. Because on the surface, the formula seems simple. They argue. They insult each other. The audience laughs. But there is much more happening beneath the surface. This is what people do not realize. Great comedy often comes from conflict between equals. Archie could bully certain people. George could dominate certain people. But neither man could dominate the other. That balance made the relationship special. Whenever Archie attacked, George attacked back. Whenever George scored a point, Archie responded. Neither one surrendered. Neither one backed down. And that created endless entertainment. Trust me, the writers struck comedy gold the moment they realized these characters could challenge each other. Now let us discuss the insults. Because honestly, some of the greatest verbal battles in sitcom history occurred between Archie and George. The rhythm was incredible. The timing was incredible. The energy was incredible. Yet what made those exchanges work was not simply the jokes. It was the chemistry. Another hot take. Archie and George may have had the best comedic chemistry between two male sitcom characters of the 1970s. Think about that. Not because they agreed. Because they disagreed so spectacularly. The friction generated laughter. And great comedy often depends on friction. Now let us talk about something deeper. Because despite all the arguments, Archie and George were not simple enemies. Far from it. In fact, one of the aspects of their relationship is that it evolves over time. The hostility never completely disappears. The jokes never disappear. The competition never disappears. But something else emerges. Recognition. Respect. Maybe not open respect. Maybe not spoken respect. But respect nonetheless. This is what people do not realize. Both men understood strength when they saw it. And both men recognized strength in the other. That recognition gave their relationship unexpected depth. Now let us talk about how George changed the show. Because George expanded the world of All in the Family in important ways. Before George arrived, Archie often dominated conversations. After George arrived, Archie finally met somebody who could match his energy. Somebody who could challenge him line for line. Somebody who could refuse to be intimidated. That shift transformed the dynamic of many scenes. Suddenly, viewers had two powerful comedic forces colliding. And honestly, television was better for it. Another hot take. George may have been the single greatest recurring character ever introduced on All in the Family. Let that sink in. The competition is fierce. There are many excellent recurring characters. But George's impact is extraordinary. Few supporting characters influence a series as dramatically as he did. Now let us discuss the social significance of these interactions. Because the comedy often overshadows how smart the writing actually was. The writers understood something important. Humor could open doors that lectures could not. Think about that. Audiences laughed at Archie and George. But while laughing, they also watched two people from different backgrounds interact in ways television had rarely shown before. The show explored prejudice, assumptions, misunderstandings, pride, identity, and it often did so through comedy. That combination made the storytelling remarkably effective. Trust me, many viewers arrived for the laughs and stayed for the substance. Now let us talk about George himself. Because George was revolutionary in his own right. Here was a successful black businessman. Confident, ambitious, proud, unapologetic, and completely unwilling to accept disrespect. That character represented something important. And Sherman brought him to life with extraordinary charisma. One of my favorite hot takes is that George could walk into almost any sitcom and immediately become one of the most memorable characters. Seriously, the personality is that strong. The writing is that strong. The performance is that strong. Very few television characters possess that kind of power. George absolutely did. Now let us discuss what happened whenever Archie and George shared emotional moments. Because yes, they existed. Not often, but often enough. Every now and then the insults stopped. The competition paused, and viewers caught glimpses of something deeper. Two men dealing with life's challenges. Two men navigating family responsibilities. Two men trying to make sense of a changing world. Those moments added humanity to the comedy. And humanity is what transforms funny scenes into unforgettable scenes. Another hot take. The rare serious moments between Archie and George make the funny moments even better. Think about that. Because viewers understand there are actual people underneath the jokes. That emotional foundation strengthens everything else. Now let us talk about legacy. Because the influence of Archie and George extends far beyond All in the Family. Their success helped lead directly to and they became one of television's greatest sitcoms. That alone demonstrates the power of George as a character. Few recurring characters generate enough audience interest to launch a classic spin-off. George did exactly that. And honestly, he earned it. Now here comes my boldest hot take of the entire video. Archie Bunker and George are the greatest sitcom rivals of all time. Let that sink in. Not because they hated each other. Not because they agreed with each other. Because they challenged each other. Because they elevated each other. Because every scene became more entertaining when both men were present. Great rivalries make everyone involved better. And that is exactly what happened here. Archie became funnier. George became funnier. The audience benefited. Television benefited. Everybody won. Now let us answer the big question. Why were Archie and George interactions pure gold? Because they combined everything great sitcom comedy requires. Strong characters, strong writing, strong performances, strong chemistry, conflict, humor, depth, timing, and authenticity. Archie and George were larger than life. Yet somehow they still felt real. They argued like rivals. They competed like rivals. But they also revealed truths about family, pride, identity, and human nature. That combination is incredibly rare. And it is why their scenes remain so beloved decades later. Whenever Archie and George appeared together, viewers knew something special was about to happen. And more often than not, they were absolutely right. Do you agree with my verdict? Were Archie and George the greatest sitcom rivals ever, or do you have another television rivalry at the top of your list? Tell me in the comments because I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. Drop a like if you love classic television. Subscribe if you are passionate about sitcom history. Share this video with fellow fans of All in the Family and do not forget to turn on notifications because we have many more deep dives into television's greatest characters and rivalries coming your way. Trust me, the next discussion is going to be another classic.